Hey there everyone, I'm Jackson with Edible Garden Growers. In this episode we're going to be talking about my favorite thing to do, and that's growing peppers. For this video we're going to be talking about the germination process, getting them started and all that, and as the season progresses we'll be posting more videos of how to transplant, increase your yields, improve plant health, all that fun stuff. So let's get to it. So if you read the back of most of your pepper seed packets, you're probably going to see that it recommends to start your seeds anywhere from 8 to 10 weeks before your average last frost date. That can really vary depending on where you're at, and even though your last frost date might be indicated by a certain date, that might not necessarily be the prime time to get your peppers out into the ground. Peppers don't do so well when the temperatures get below 55 degrees, so be watching your nighttime temperatures. They can survive down into the upper 30s, but they'll be pretty sad and stop growing. So if you have the ability to keep them inside, that's definitely going to be recommended. I'm starting some seeds today. It is the end of January. So we're quite a bit a ways out from our last frost date. I'm in Portland, Oregon, for those that don't know. But the seeds that I'm starting today are going to be going into my 30-gallon pots. Let's see if you can... And some of them, you can see some of them. They'll be going into my 30-gallon pots, so I'm going to get those guys nice and beefy, and they'll be living in my greenhouse for quite some time. And then the other seeds I'm starting are going into the covered hot sauce beds that I've got out in the front yard. So those will have a layer of greenhouse plastic, 6 mil greenhouse plastic, and then another layer of, I forget how dense it is, but some row cover just to get some additional heat trappingness in there. So my favorite thing to start pepper seeds in, these guys, 72 cell trays. This one's from Bootstrap Farmer. Make sure you got yourself a 10 by 20 tray for it to sit in. You can really start start peppers in whatever type of container that you want, whatever you have. I've used a variety of different things, but what I found that works the best for me is these 72 cell trays. After a month, or a month after they've germinated, which can take anywhere from a couple days to a month, depending on how finicky the seeds are and how well you have your conditions set up, I will then typically transplant to these 2.5-inch pots. They come with trays that fit in your 10 by 20 trays. Fits 32. So basically having the amount of plants per 10 by 20. After another month, I'll then put them in the ground if that's what my plan is. If not, I'll up them into a 4-inch pot, maybe a 1-gallon, or I'll just start heavily feeding them if it's not going to be that much longer before I get them in the ground. Something new I'm trying this year is these guys. They're 3.25-inch pots, so you can fit 18 of them in one of these 10 by 20 trays. I'm going to do that just as an experiment. The plants that I was growing in the 2.5-inch pots last year, some of them were perfectly timed, some of them I wanted to leave them in there for a little bit longer, so it'd be nice if I had a slightly bigger pot. So that might be what I end up converting to. Doesn't really matter how you do it, just work with what you have and try and give your plants the most ideal life cycle that it can get. Some of the things that I don't have out here that I'll be going over is you'll want a humidity dome and a heat pad if you're living in a cooler environment like me. It's in the mid-30s right now, especially in the shade. So my house is sitting at like 67 degrees. You're not going to want to be starting peppers in that ambiently low of a temperature. If you're somewhere down south where your house is sitting at a higher ambient temperature, the need for a heat mat and humidity dome might not necessarily be necessary. So work with your environment. This is not a plan that works for everyone in all environments, so pick from it what you find will be helpful. And yeah, so I'll start walking you through that process now and start filling these trays with some soil. So when I plant pepper seeds, I typically like to do it between a 1/2 inch and a 1/4 inch deep. So I'll just go as close to dead center of those two as I can, so 3/8 of an inch. And that's marked on this Sharpie here with that blue line. As I'm making my indents, I will hold my finger right along with that line, so when I'm making the indent in, my finger hits the soil, I can see that the line is even with the soil, pull out, and then I've got the perfect sized hole for my pepper seeds. When it comes to watering newly seeded trays of pepper seeds, I like to use the Solo pump sprayer. I feel it gives a less likelihood of the seeds washing out when you water them for the first time, less compaction. I'll use this for the first couple weeks and then switch over to a regular watering can at that point. So for the hot sauce beds, I got a tray of the ahi lemon drop, tray of some Reapers. This is for my 30-gallon pots, 15, 5, and 1-gallon pots as well. Bunch of fun stuff there. That's gonna all be stuff that I'll be selling as seed on my Etsy and also on my website pdxpeppers.com. You can go there now and check out, see my current selection. I've got some of these available right now. We got another hot sauce bed tray, so we got some white jalapeno, brown jalapeno, what is that, pumpkin spice jalapeno, and then orange spice jalapeno. Definitely real productive ones last year. I was a big fan of those ones. And then I've got some orange habanero, some white ghost, early jalapeno, orange habanero again, peppercini, and then this is a bunch of onions that'll go in the ground in a couple months for hot sauces and whatnot. So when it comes to heat mats, I highly suggest going the route that is a little bit pricier but much higher quality. This is by Hydro Farm. This is their Jumpstart heat mat. I think I paid like 25 bucks for it, but they have lasted me 5+ years with no issues. This last year I ended up upgrading to a 4-foot heat mat by roughly 20 inches. It can fit 4 pads or 4 trays, no problem. Down below I've just got the singles, but there's space in between each one, so you're losing some heating capability there. This guy is drawing quite a bit of power, so it's connected to a thermostat, which allows me to control the temperature. The temperature reader is just in the soil there, so it's getting a constant reading of what the soil is. And I'm a big fan of this one. That's also by Jumpstart. So when it comes to the lighting, I prefer using T5 fixtures. They're not the cheapest option out there. There's definitely things that'll just work, that'll get the job done. But if you're wanting to put a little more time and money into it, definitely recommend T5s for starting seeds. Got all my humidity domes set up. These guys I leave fully closed if they've got vents. If they don't have vents, I don't do nothing. After a little bit of time passes and they start to pop up, I'll slowly start to open them a bit more. I'll leave these guys on until about 50% or so have germinated, or roughly the vast majority have popped up. Throughout the day, I will open these guys at least once or twice to vent them. A lot of condensation will form on here, so I'll even dump some of that out, let it air out for a little bit, and then throw it back on. Your plants want fresh air, so just keeping these guys on is not very ideal. So once you get to the point of being able to remove the humidity domes, you're going to want some fresh air exchange going on with the plant. So you're going to want a fan, if not multiple, depending on what your setup is looking like. If the plants aren't getting fresh air, there's an increased risk of getting things like mold pressure, disease pressure, pests like it more, so having fresh air is definitely a must all around. Alright, so it's been about 7 days now. On our mixed tray, we are looking at about a 15% germination rate so far. Our ahis, what are we looking at? About a 25% so far. Not really seeing a whole lot, but a bunch of them are just not breaking the surface. Our reapers, we got a whopping 1%. We've got one that has popped so far. Usually I see at least a couple by day 4 or 5, so I'm impressed to see only one by day 7. We'll see how it goes though. And then our jalapenos, we have an 80% germination rate on day 7. The jalapenos are definitely quick growers. Those for sure like to germinate real fast. Habaneros, measly 3%, single one out of 30. And then for our white ghost, we're sitting at 0% still. Just another habanero, not habanero, another jalapeno tray. And then my onions. Alright, once again, I'm Jackson. Thanks for checking this video out. Hopefully you learned a couple tips or tricks about growing your own peppers. This is going to be the first video in a series of videos about growing peppers, so be on the lookout for more videos about transplanting, optimizing health, harvesting, just the whole process. So thanks for watching.